been able to like build my own kind of safety net. And now I'm like, I'm actually an artist. It turns out I'm not a product manager or a data analyst at heart. This might not be the safest way to approach this, but here's my little spray paint station in my studio here. And yeah, I'm just trying to get into the flow of cutting the camera on and like bringing you guys into when I'm working, not just when I'm holding the mic and lamenting about like the trajectory of my work or whatever. I'm kind of sick because I recorded most of this video a few weeks ago and I like the footage that I got, my little 2-cam setup, super cute. But the content of it, I wasn't super clear on like the themes that I was talking about. I was using the filming as a way to just kind of work through that because I really had just started thinking about retheming and rethinking the stool series like a day before I recorded that. So now I've had more time to noodle on it and I can explain it more succinctly so you guys don't have to watch me ramble. Half of the people who saw the last video said they like hearing me ramble. And, well, not even the other half, just one particular person was like, I completely understand what you were talking about, but hey, it's cute. So I'm going to be a bit more succinct. And I'll start with a story. I went to the wood shop shortly after finishing the Commode stool, and I booked the time at the wood shop even before I had another like design really ready. So I just went with this very like popular silhouette, like in this minimal like stool space, you know, and it wasn't original or like groundbreaking. I just wanted to keep the momentum of finishing a stool. I wanted to keep that up. So I went to the studio to make this simple stool, and as I was trying to pry off a piece of the wood from a jig that I had made, I like slipped and like poked myself with the putty knife I was using, and I had to. I'm describing it very crisply, but it was kind of a mess. Like it was like really bloody and stuff. And I got a little boo-boo now. Can you see it? Yeah. It's hardcore. Like I don't have any tattoos, so I'm fully leaning into being the scar guy. But yeah, I had to go like a friend at the wood shop had to take me to get stitches. That was my first time getting stitches. So the whole thing kind of shook me up a little bit. And I took like 2 or 3 weeks to actually heal up, like get the stitches removed and have the wound close up on its own and stuff. So obviously I couldn't do any type of woodworking at that time because I didn't want to have like dust in there. But aside from the physical, I also was just a little skittish about getting back into the wood shop. So I'm sitting here in my apartment and during that time trying to still design. I can't build at that time, but I can still design. So I was thinking about, okay, well, what else can we do? Obviously, this type of stool, which is loosely like influenced by the Tombstone tool from, I forget exactly which studio in Brooklyn does that. I'll put it on the screen. The only reason I chose this design was because it's loosely fitted to what the theme of the stool series was. And that's where we'll go to next. The series was more about me being able to get in some reps of like building and completing like small pieces. And I hadn't decided proactively what the theme of the project would be, like what the theme of the series would be. But due to the material constraints and the like constraints of my own like woodworking skills, the implied theme of the stools was like this minimal brutalist approach, right? Because I had thin, wide wood boards that were all the same material. So it was a uniform material, which was all that maple that I had left over from building a daybed last year. So uniform material, which was very in line with how like the modern minimalist, brutalist furniture typically looks. So that was the material constraint that kind of got us there. And the other half was like the constraints of my own woodworking skill. Like I'm not someone who is experienced or super good at making like super tricky, super complicated wood joints. So the stool series was always going to be kind of brutalist in aesthetic of like butt joints and really like blocky, geometric, straightforward joinery. But that was as much of a theme as we had. It really had no higher design thinking behind it. So flashback to, me getting my stitches put in and not being able to go to the wood shop anymore. I'm sitting and I'm thinking, okay, how can I still move this forward now that I'm not really going to be woodworking as frequently as I was a few weeks ago, at least for a while. So that led me to like the path of more simple joinery. At first I was like, well, we can just use screws. That's what I was thinking, just fasten it's like screws and nails. That can, make it a little bit easier on me because that's something I can do with hand tools. I don't have to, do any trickery and make jigs to run something, through the planer and all that stuff. Well, this is where we kind of connect into my broader design thinking, and this is how I arrived at the braces and brackets and stuff. I was talking to someone, and we weren't talking about woodworking, and we weren't talking about my design practice, but we were talking about design in general. And one of the things that I felt strongly about for quite a long time, like this is one of my like most central design beliefs and like interests, which is honesty and transparency in design. I really like things that are super clear, how they were constructed, how they work, and things that, the designer did not go to great lengths to obscure the inner workings or the, construction of the thing. Examples, I like electronics that are covered in buttons. Like I'm not the touchscreen black box guy. Like everything is kind of just a black rectangle now. You just like tap and swipe and wave. Some things you can't get away from. I have a smartphone. I'm a person. But other things like lamps, like alarm clocks, like keyboards, mouses, and stuff like that. I'm gonna go for the thing with the buttons and the wheels and the little toggle switches like that because I like that. I really value the mechanical feedback of interacting with things and the relationship I can have with an object when I know how it works just from looking at it. I know how it's constructed just from looking at it. You see where we're going with this. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out, how can I continue designing even though I'm not in the wood shop right now due to injury. And I revisited that stool design that I got injured trying to make. And I was like, I feel so strongly about honesty and transparency in design. So why am I trying to make these seamlessly joined pieces? I don't actually feel this way. And like I said earlier, you can see that I don't feel passionately about this silhouette that I was going for anyway. I just wanted to keep making something. So I said, okay, well, how can I bring the Lex of it all into this design? And that is where we leaned even further. I was like, okay, so not even just screws, but let's think about brackets. Let's think about completely ditching the tight joint between two pieces of wood and separate them, So I will show you now where that line of thinking has gotten me, which is this kind of reimagined way of it. These little very simple shapes. These are just concept sketches. I'm going to put them on the screen. You can see them. These are just concept sketches. The brackets are not, I did not consider weight capacity or anything like that. Some of these brackets don't even exist. It's just to show the concept of emphasizing the joint and even going as far as detaching the components from and suspending them from each other completely instead of joining them seamlessly and tightly, as is very popular in the minimal brutalist type of space. So yeah, it kind of got me to this, and that's what led me down the brackets and braces type of timeline. It kills three birds with one stone. One, it helps, it lowers the amount of woodworking that I have to do to continue making. I'm going to get back to it. I like a good half flap just like anybody else. I like a good joint too, but that's just not where I'm at right now. And I just need to ease back into it. So that it helps me keep going. 2, it gives a tighter theme to the stool series. And I'll explain, when I'm talking about, hey, I kind of want to have my design practice show a more like elevated and more like tighter concept, more cohesive like concept. And I'll talk about the whole like, oh, should I go to art school type of thing. That's kind of why. But that's a second like bird with one stone that it kills, which is like it gives a higher design pursuit to this stool series. And third and final, I feel now that doing it this way puts a lot more Lex into it. Before it was just like, we're making stools and we'll see how it goes. But making something that is so closely connected to a design principle that I so like strongly live by makes it feel a lot more like me. And that's something that is, that's hard to do for me right now. Because I tend to get more wrapped up in trying to make something that's objectively good or looks objectively like the good stuff that's out, the popular things, as opposed to really just asking, how could this be the result of just me, like thinking and choosing what I like and what's important to me. And I feel a part of it is not wanting to be judged off of an objective scale of like quality. When you're a woodworker, like when you're a DIYer, like woodworker, furniture maker, you're judged on the quality of your dovetails and like how good your joints come together. But as an artist, I want my opinion of my work to be the definitive one. I want my artistic intent to be the like the metric by which I'm judged. Throat dry. I think it might be them Altoids. When did I get those? A few days ago? That is how accidentally stabbing myself with a putty knife. Can you say stab on YouTube? Accidentally poking myself with a putty knife led me to really elevating this project that I'm working on and bringing it into a much more cohesive theme and bringing in some new materials too. I really fuck with it. I really like the brackets, and I'm excited to get back in the shop, cut down a couple pieces, and get it all together. I really love that like floating negative space vibe, and we'll see if I can like actually make that happen from a physics standpoint. But yeah, that is what the hell is going on. Okay, I'll come clean. I'm really thinking about all of this, like what's the higher artistic purpose of my work? How am I any different from a DIYer? I'm really thinking about all of this because I'm thinking about going to art school. Please, I know. Motherfuckers get to be 27 and they start thinking, well, I guess I should just go back to school. I get it. And trust me, I've had that conversation with myself. Now that I've decided that I'm going to, put together a project, something that, can be formatted into a portfolio and like actually like think about and commit to some artistic themes. Well, one artistic theme that like ties my work together and like digging deep to find out what that is. I've been thinking that way for like 2 weeks, and it's already been quite like productive to see my work that way and to see myself that way. So that's the point of all of this. Some of the work that I do, I'd always stressed out about like, hey, will this amount to just me being a garage tinkerer, or can I make this more? So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna figure it out one stool at a time, one project at a time. And, you guys are here to watch that happen just slowly but surely. This is my exercise in showing up just as I am, even though it's half-baked, it's not fully formed. I'm not the greatest at my like craft. I'm not the, most popular guy, but like, if it will help you at all to watch someone stumble through, like trying to create their vision, watching someone like mess up and be redirected and take loop-de-loops all around, then thank you for joining me. I figured I'd do a tagline also, because the title of this series doesn't make sense to most people who aren't from where I'm from. So you'll see in the show notes, the tagline is, "We're not there yet, but we'll get there at the wow." And that's the tagline. So we're not there yet, but we're going to get there at the wow.